You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pincus and Andre Prue.
Oh, Andre, you're pouring. Woo-hoo, sweet champagne.
I am pouring sweet champagne.
What?
I am pouring sweet champagne.
I just meant sweet champagne.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see what we're doing here. No, this is sweet champagne.
Oh, I haven't even tasted it yet. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
You know, I got the press release sent to me.
Oh, it is sweet champagne.
Mm.
I just saw the Veuve on it.
Yeah, so it's a bottle of Veuve Clicquot Rich. This is, I think it has been in the market before, but they're doing a big publicity push on it. I thought it was interesting to bring it because I was in Champagne a few weeks ago. We're going to talk about that on the next episode of Two Guys Talking Wine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how somebody got married that you know or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a bit of a celebration. He just happens to be sitting beside us, and his brother got married in France, and we crashed the wedding. Hi, Guillaume. But one thing I found interesting, so I went to Guido's Forget, and it's a small boutique champagne house. The winemaker is a woman about my age, and she's working with her dad and making some epic juice. You know, a notable highlight was the Pinot Meunier that she's made that was like 8 years in stainless steel tanks on coarse lees, and then 7 more years on lees, just developing these intense flavors. Like 15 years before this wine has seen the light of day. You know, austere, pinkies up, like champagne. But she mentioned in our conversation that the best-selling wine that she makes is a demi-sec. And I remember reading, like, you know, when you see the classification of how sweet a wine is, you know, it goes extra brut or brut nature, brut, and then I don't remember any of the other ones because you very rarely don't see just brut and extra brut on the shelf of the LCBO or on wine lists. So I was very curious about the demi-sec.
Yeah, it's demi-sec doux.
Yeah, so this, for some reason, this is just labeled as rich. Like, I'm curious where
I believe this would be a doux. This would be sweet doux.
I mean, yes, it is. Sorry, it says right on the back there, champagne doux. So it's a sweet. Well done, Michael.
Woo! French comes in handy.
So
I used to teach the different levels of champagne.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So the thing I thought that was interesting was I bought a couple half bottles of the demi-sec as an experiment. Mm-hmm. One was supposed to make it back with us, which is why it's really nice that Veuve Clicquot provided us with this bottle. I just had too much in my suitcase, so we ended up drinking both of them in France.
Right in the airport.
Actually, one of them was at Guillaume's brother's house, but something really kind of interesting sort of happened is the brother of the bride saw that I was drinking demi-sec and said, like, what are you doing? Like, that's for women.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm a woman today then, because you know what? The demi-sec, like, I know we have this fixation on like dry wine's good, sweet wine's not so good, and then there's asterisks beside it. But when we opened up that demi-sec, it went amazing with blue cheese.
Like, I could see that.
Getting that like point and counterpoint with like a really salty, strong blue cheese and like the sweet but really nice acidity. Because the thing is, a demi-sec, like this wine is sweet and it doesn't have the searing acid of like a brut,
no.
but it's still, it's
still
not
got
bad.
a little bit of acidity to it, but I can see that now that I'm putting it all together. Because if you think port, you obviously blue cheese, ice wine, blue cheese. Now these aren't as sweet as that, but I could see where you're going with that.
Well, with the demi-sec, it was specifically blue cheese because I was eating a lot of cheese in France, as one does when you're paying a third the price of what you do in Canada. Like Comté, I have a lot of Comté. I have Comté in my fridge right now. It didn't go quite as well as the Roquefort that I bought, which is a very pungent blue cheese.
See, and I find it interesting that, well, in Europe, because I was in Italy, I was in France, they still use like a masculine, feminine way to describe wines, mm-hmm. and that they're not afraid to say that's a woman's wine. Although I think it was meant as an insult.
Oh,
all right. So
okay, so it
did not come from a place of nicety. It came from a place of douche.
Yeah, a little bit. So the sugar content on this wine, 55 grams per liter residual sugar. I'm actually digging it. It has like the champagne fruit profile, but it's more obviously with the sweetness pumped up. It's like lemon curd. My wife makes great lemon curd. I think this would be a smash with that. Definitely bring out the tartness in that.
I don't know how much I could drink of this though. Like, I mean, it's glass. Stop. Like, if you went through a bottle of this, I think the headache at the end would be pretty harsh.
I don't disagree with you on that. Now, if you want to have your head hurt, my only like real critique about this wine. $95.35.
Yeah, that's yeah. See, I want a little more searing acidity. I want it to be drier. Even if you're sharing with this, what does it make? 7 glasses, 6 glasses? Like, even you're sharing that with somebody, that seems a lot per glass.
Yeah, it says like in the back to drink on ice or chilled. I really enjoy Aperol spritz in the summer, but the thing is, I don't know if at $95 this is bringing a lot more to my spritz that a really great bottle of Prosecco isn't bringing.
And I don't think I would want to put a $95 bottle of anything into a blend, like into a something that's going to go with an Aperol, or throw it into I'm going to use sangria or anything that needs a spritz or a little bit of sweetness. At $95, it's something I would want to drink on its own. And then, yeah, ice. You're just, you're diluting it.
We are recording in front of a live studio audience today.
Yeah. But, here's my other question. And how much sweet champagne is made? Like, I know for rosé champagne, it's about 15%. That I know. But how much is made sweet? That would be interesting to find out.
I think that's a very good question. Like I said, the only place that it really stood out for me was at Guy d'Os Forget. Obviously, at Henry Giraud, who we're going to be talking about next week, I didn't see Demi-Sec on their lineup of wines at all.
So if rosé is 15%, I would have to think it's maybe less than 5. Like, I'm spitballing it. Anybody's listening that actually knows that answer, like legitimately, not just go Google it, but legitimately knows the answer of how much sweet champagne is made. It'd be interesting to know.
Okay, so now that we're back and you're back firmly on this continent for
terra firma,
for more than a few days, you and I have had a chance to do some tasting in Ontario recently, and I think it was a pretty banger day. Yeah, we I don't like to admit that we're not drinking and driving. It's just I see a lot more cops, first of all, in Niagara these days, like a lot more in the wine region. I'm just saying. Okay. It used to be kind of like an unspoken thing that the cops weren't showing up there, but they're all over. They're like little. Anyway, that's beside the point. Well, when you spend money like Doug Ford, you need to find a way to pay for it. I guess. But so we did end up in 2 places, 5 Rows. Yeah, and 16 Mile. So let's start with 5 Rows. If you haven't, it's been a while since we promoted our Legacy series. We sort of went harder with that at the beginning. It's kind of ended up a little bit furloughed, but I think one of my favorite episodes of the Legacy series that we did was it took some finagling, but we convinced Wes Lowry from the Lowry family of 5 Rows to sit down. That he was Legacy, yeah. Because he's like, I'm young, but I think he was representing the whole family. But one of the few, if not the only, 5th-generation grape growers in Niagara. And, I'd like to throw it. I think there's one more I'd really like to get for the Legacy series, and then we could almost, I think we could almost close the book on Legacy. And if somebody's listening and can shove a little bug in Daniel Lenko's ear, that we would love to sit down with him and talk to him now that he's basically out of the wine game. Like, he ripped out his vines. Yep. And I think that's, it's heartbreaking to some of us who grew up knowing Daniel Lenko was out there growing grapes, making wine, and then stopped making wine and just sold the grapes. And now, I saw the post on Facebook where he said, it's the end of an era. And there was you could feel the tears in people's eyes. And Lenko was, along with, say, 13th Street, the original 13th Street, was one of those cult wineries that people would go to. And I think what we're looking at, 5 Rows, 16 Mile, we may be looking at this next generation of cult wineries in Ontario. Oh, 100%. I think for sure with 5 Rows, because it's kind of funny, you have a lot of places that have sort of popped up, and it is kind of cool to see how you do have kind of a cultish feeling with some of them. On 7 is one of them, like what Vittorio's done there very quickly with On 7. And then you kind of have the other side of the coin where it's almost like people are trying to bully their way into being cult, like they're trying to buy their way into being cool, like the Stone Eagle monstrosity being built on Niagara Stone
just across from
Road,
Stratus,
right across from Stratus, where it's just like the thing that I think sets Five Rose apart from all the other cult wineries and the wannabes in Ontario is the authenticity that comes with it. They haven't jacked the price when the word has gotten out. You're still greeted by the family when you show up there. When you phone the winery, it's the house phone.
Yeah, you're getting mama on the phone.
And, it's kind of funny the people I talk to, like we were with Julia Clark, who's a sommelier, Julia's Wine Fete on Instagram. She knows a lot about what's going on in Ontario. She's just like, hadn't really heard of Five Rose until just recently. And it's just like the number of people who haven't heard of this place, it blows my mind.
Correct. So that's, you can't buy your way into cult status no matter what you want to do. You have to grow it slowly. And as I said, the like two of the originals, Lenko, 13th Street. The original 13th Street was open twice a year. I think I've discussed this before. Twice a year. It was usually a weekend. They'd have a little party. If you showed up on Saturday, you had your choice of whatever wines. If you showed up on Sunday, guess what? You got the leftovers. That's basically how it is. But they had, and this is what we were at. Five Rose had their little open house. They're only open 3-4 months of the year if you're lucky.
But they do like sort of rolling pickups. Like it's a sort of thing where it's such a family thing where I have a hard time really seeing them turning someone completely away if there's no one kicking around.
Yeah, but if there's no wine, there's nothing to try.
I mean, that's it. The wines generally do sell out very quickly, and we were there the first Saturday that they were doing pickups, and we were the first people there, and it didn't take long for the place to fill up.
No, and I think West said they make 900 cases. Is that what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 900 cases. It's not a lot. It's a tiny little operation.
So I think some of these wines are still available. There's 6 wines available every year. Shall we roll through the lineup? 3 whites, 3 reds.
Sure, if you want to. I will give my. I'll start with my favorite. Is on the whites is Sauvignon Blanc.
Me too.
I thought that was the best of the. And then there's a couple other ones: Pinot Gris, Riesling. I see what they're doing with the Riesling. Great balance.
I think it's a fairly typical Niagara on the Lake St. David's Bench Riesling. I think it might be a little too hot there, but I'm certainly not going to tell the Lowry family that they have the wrong grapes planted. It's a good Riesling, but it's just I think for you and I, where our heads are going is it comes to dollars and cents. The Pinot Gris, the Riesling, and the Sauvignon Blanc are all very good wines. My score on the Pinot Gris was 3.5 plus. Had a little bit more texture than what you typically expect from Pinot Gris from Ontario. It certainly wasn't the boring Pinot Gris we find from so many wineries. But we're also talking about a $45 price point, and it's sort of the same thing with the Riesling. Beautiful, balanced. I could use a little bit more acid in my Riesling. Off dry, like 17 grams ish. I could be wrong, Wes. If you're listening to this, feel free to send me an email or text message to correct my math on that. But I think it's like very nice balance. Once again, $45.
I got them listed as 40. 45 is the Sauv Blanc.
45 is the Sauv Blanc. Okay.
So what I was 3.5 on the Riesling, 3.5 plus on the Pinot Gris. Although the Sauvignon Blanc, as I said, was my favorite white. I'm still 3.5 plus on it. I really like the
Riesling.
I love the texture of the Sauv Blanc.
The Riesling was 3.5 plus. The Sauvignon Blanc was 4 plus.
Okay.
And the Sauvignon Blanc actually dropped my jaw this year because the tropical fruit was so amplified on it, and it was so well pronounced. And then it hit me that there was a bit of sweetness on the back end of it. 7 grams per liter residual sugar, which is by no means a sweet wine, but the way it pushed the notes into tropical was something I've never tasted in Niagara or think anywhere before.
It had a yum factor to it, but I am still, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, I'm still a fan of the New Zealand style, so I do like that jangly acidity, and without it, I have trouble calling it Sauv Blanc, so I'm always looking for it.
Dude, you spent like a month in Bordeaux, and like this is very clearly more of a Bordeaux style of Sauvignon Blanc than it is New Zealand.
The Bordelais have learned a little bit of jangly as well. So, but if you're going to go,
boo to jangly Sauvignon Blanc, and like, don't get me wrong, not all are made equally, and Erica Crawford from Love Block popped into my feed again. It's just like, man, it's been a while since I've seen those wines at the LCBO, and the Love Block Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand is really great. I don't know, you and I should probably dive into that later this year.
With Sauvignon Blanc?
Yeah, with Sauvignon Blanc, but New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc specifically.
There's a lot of different and good styles, not just the Marlborough anymore. There's stuff from Nelson and stuff like that, which was really nice.
All right, well, on to the reds. We had a lineup of 3, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Syrah. I purchased 2 bottles of the Pinot Noir. I always buy a bottle of the Pinot Noir. The 2023, we were on to 23 or 22?
22. The
2022 Pinot Noir has to be one of the biggest, heaviest, most brooding versions of this wine that I've tasted from Five Rose. This is not a drink now wine. It was shy, it was closed off, it was very earthy, and it took a lot of swirling in the glass for it to start revealing the fruit. But I think in 5 years, this is going to be an excellent Pinot Noir, or with a full day in a decanter. This is not a open it and let it sit in a decanter for an hour. It's going to take a long ass time for this wine to reveal itself.
I like his Pinot. Obviously, he's got the heritage with it. I found it a little bit lighter than you did. Obviously,
really. Well, yeah. I mean, for Niagara, this is not a Côte de Nuit. It was just it was a little bit heavier and earthier than I was expecting.
I got a lot of savory notes, little teeny bit of kind of a leafy, earthy thing going on as well.
Teeny bit. I got a lot of earthy.
But I sat with it a while and I stirred the hell out of it. So, but yeah, I really like his Pinot Noir. I've never had any problems with it, and I think it's obviously it's justified at its price point of $65.
I know, and it's one of the few where it's sort of like, if there's a litmus test for I think who are asking quality for price, it's Thomas Batchelder with his Pinot Noir made from that vineyard, and what Wes is doing from that vineyard, and your wines have got to be that good to keep up. The Cabernet Sauvignon, not the strongest of the lineup.
Weakest of the lineup. I'll say it here. I found it a little savory, a little grassy, a little green. It was not.
But I mean, it's what you would expect from a Cab Sauv in Ontario and Niagara from a cooler year. And I mean, well made, certainly well made. But the thing is, it's just we're picking one, and I think that's where you and I our critique is coming from. Is we're not making enough money that we can walk out with a case of each of these. I bought 3 bottles from them. I bought 4 bottles this year. The 4th bottle I bought was the 2022 Syrah, and I actually wasn't going to buy it.
Well, the Syrah is fantastic.
Because I find Five Rose Syrah is another one where it's like the Pinot. It's usually a little shy. It usually takes a long time for it to open up, but they didn't have it open for tasting because they made very little of it.
Yeah.
But I asked Wes if he had a bottle open because I saw one in the corner, and it was a bottle they'd opened the previous day, and there must have been 1/5 of it left.
Yeah.
And he poured a sneaky taste for me, which I passed off to you, and oh man,
I really like their Syrah. I always have. The last time we were at Five Rose and did the podcast with Wes, I think I fell in love with the Syrah at that point because it is really good. I wrote down in my notes that they found their second grape, but I was in talking with Wes. They're talking that some of those old vines are gonna have to come out. It is Ontario, and they're not going to be as old as they used to be anymore. And I'm thinking maybe that Syrah is going to surpass the Pinot at some point as being the grape that the Lowrys are going to be making really good, and I think it'll be the one that'll be sought after just as much as the Pinot.
I hope not. But on the other hand, I sort of understand it, and it's just, man, we're going to have to do something about a Pinot Noir feature later on in the year, because there's so many great grape growers I talk to where it's just they're known for their fruit, and then it's just but you don't have any Pinot Noir planted, and it's just we don't really talk about Pinot Noir.
Yeah,
and I think we should let people know about what a bitch it is to grow Pinot Noir in
Yeah,
Ontario.
it's not an easy grape to grow. I don't know if Syrah's much easier, right? They're there on the St. David's bench, but I mean,
Well, I don't know if it's the summers or the winter. You know what?
if you think about it, though,
Let's put a pin in this part of the conversation because we had a nice segue with Pinot Noir, and we kind of ruined it by getting off topic, going back to Syrah. But
I'm gonna still come back to it, and then we'll move on. But I'm gonna say this, if you think about it, who's making probably the best Syrah in Ontario? Probably Creekside.
Casava.
They also make a very good Syrah, but they're a one-off there on the bench.
Yep.
But if you think about where Creekside's vineyard for Syrah is, and they
Yep.
just won the All Canadian Wine Championships for best. They got the best red wine.
Yeah, with a
which is
$15 bottle of wine.
With a $15 bottle of 2020 Shiraz. It's Syrah, but they called it Shiraz. Let them do their thing. But again, that's grown on the St. David's bench, and that's where Five Rose is, right there on the St. David's bench. There's got to be something about that particular part of Ontario that's doing some good Syrah work. Now,
But it's weird because it's also good for Pinot Noir.
correct. Okay, so it is good for Pinot Noir, and that's where the segue comes back in.
So we went to like a winery I have a strong affection for. I've been unapologetic about that, both because they're like good personal friends. They've been great friends to the ADX Wine Company over the years. But, it's so much easier to talk about your friends' wine when they're just straight up bangers. I think most people listening to this podcast have heard about 16 Mile, and if you haven't heard about 16 Mile, you should.
Yep.
They held their open house this past Saturday, and the word is starting to get out. It was almost my stress got up because I'm so close with them, as I could see Susan, the owner, her stress was getting up seeing how many cars were parked up and down their driveway. It was just there were so many people who had showed up to support the winery.
Yeah.
And also it was kind of funny sitting there with Susan as well, as she knew exactly who had showed up right when they opened at 11. It's just those people have been here for a couple of hours and haven't bought anything. This is just I am not throwing any shade at Susan. I'm throwing shade at the person who shows up at an open house for 2 hours and doesn't buy anything. If
Yeah,
you're
you
going
can't
to a winery's open house, by all means, go taste, sample the food. If you don't like anything, that's fine. Say thank you and move on, because there's other people there who want to buy.
Yeah, don't just sit there and eat and
But
graze.
But that's it, though. Is go there, eat, graze, but make sure you buy something like FFS. I purchased a almost full case of wine, and the bottle we're enjoying right now, we tasted at the open house, but I bought and paid for it. This was not a sample. I can't believe I have to specify that, but I do just want to say that I put my money where my mouth is, that you and I and Julia and Spencer and Anya, we went to support our friends at 16 Mile, but we supported them financially as well. And what we're drinking right now is their 2017 entry level.
Yeah.
Their entry level.
Yeah.
The Rebel Pinot Noir.
So that was delicious. We tried
Is
a
delicious.
few other ones. I went down the rabbit hole kind of because I was with you, and I wanted to see. Well, first of all, they have this new wine called Externus, which is a white Pinot Noir. It seems an interesting choice to do with Pinot Noir because everybody says how expensive it is. But if you want to do it, and I thought it was really tasty. So I have no problem if that's what they want to do with their Pinot Noir. You hear people doing it with Cab Franc all the time. So let's do it with Pinot. They have this new one called the 2023 Tenacity Chardonnay, which I know you and your cohorts went gaga for. I was not as gaga over it as you were.
Well, it was vibrant. It was spicy. I think it's one of those things where it's going to be interesting to see how it settles down. But it is the joy of really great Niagara Chardonnay. It is ready to rock when it's pretty young, and I do think this is one that is ready to rock right now. So I do hope it comes to the market sooner rather than later.
And then I said,
and sorry, just to be clear, that's the 2023 Tenacity Chardonnay. It's a single barrel.
Yep.
So we'll be in short supply. It'll be about 25 cases if my math is correct.
and I don't think it's even kind of out yet. It's kind of just.
I had to beg for a few bottles, and
So
I had to get permission from the owners for them to let them leave the premise, which I'm very appreciative of.
Yeah, if you have to go, you have to beg. So that's what it is. But then we tasted a flight of Chardonnays, which was really nice.
Oh baby!
We had the 18, the 19, and the 20. I believe they were all Rebel.
Yes.
Okay. My favorite was the 19. I walked out of there with 3 of those.
My favorite was the 20, but I think I bought 3 of the 19.
Yeah, well, you should have. That's the one that's going to age, I think, the longest.
I agree.
We got lovely acidity. We got lovely fruit. To me, that's what I'm looking for in an Ontario Chardonnay. I want that lovely acidity that's going to clear out the palate. I want that lovely fruit to be first and foremost. And then if it's in oak, which I do appreciate Chardonnay in oak, but not overly oaked. And that's what I loved about this Chardonnay. It was balanced so well.
I think the 20 is going to age better than you think. And I think this just comes with your experience as well. It's taken Ontario a long time to come to the point where we have talented winemakers who understand how to build wines for aging. And I think even going back to like 2010, 2012, I don't think anybody's 2010s or 2012s aged the way people thought or hoped that they would. I think that the turning point was around 2016, where people learned from the mistakes of the past, better structure to wines, better vineyard management, better harvesting, but also, just the right winemakers in the right place. And, we did that tasting with Christine a few years ago with the lineup of Canadian Chardonnays, and it was a 2015 16 mile that was pretty much the only from my, at the time, quite sad cellar of Chardonnay that stood up to the test of time.
Correct, but it was past where the sweet spot for me, which is 5 to 7 years, is probably your time of getting a little too old for Ontario Chardonnay. I have no problem with like a French Chardonnay. They go 10, 15 years, and I've had those.
Yep.
And they've been delicious. But Ontario seems to have that spot where 7 years, unless you're really making outstanding Chardonnay, they fall apart, and it's a sad moment when you open that 8-year-old Ontario Chard thinking it's going to be wonderful, and you go, it's not.
Speaking of French wines that age, this is a tiny bit of a flex, but also kind of a cool, just sort of aside. I get along really well with Guillaume's dad, and Guillaume's dad is a wine collector, and I ordered some nice wine, had it shipped to his house, shared it with his family, shared it with Guillaume to help celebrate with the family, and his dad was just like, you need to come raid my cellar, and I was just like, are you sure? And like Guillaume came with me to help raid the cellar, and he's just like, are you sure? I don't know if you saw this on Instagram, but I posted, but this was one of the wines that we opened. If you want to read out.
A Merceau Premier Cru Les
Cras, CRAS.
Okay.
1988.
Oh, and?
I think that was the one that most people preferred, because we opened 2 very old Chardonnays, because we also opened a Pierre Mary, Marey, not Pierre Maury, a Corton Charlemagne Grand Cru, 1990. I found a little bit more density and brightness and vibrancy in the 1990. I think that probably would have been more your speed, where the 1988, both these wines still had fresh fruit to them. They weren't both just, almond bars.
Yep.
But I think to your point, I'd be hard pressed to see, an Ontario wine age 35 years, an Ontario Chardonnay age 35 years, like both of those.
I think we're still a ways off from that. Maybe it's maybe we need the older fruit. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe Thomas will figure it out as he's working through his little appellation lineups. He'll figure out that this appellation actually has better structure, so it'll age longer. What I'm really hoping is what he's doing, and hopefully we'll get him on the podcast at some point to talk about it. I hope he's aging these bottles as well as just selling them, and not just trusting that other people are aging them.
We'll have to ask him, see if we can bring something old. I've got some stuff that's a few years old downstairs, but
I do too. But I mean, he's got to have stuff from his first vintage. You would hope, anyway.
All right. Pinot, for me, they make amazing Pinot Noir from 16 Mile, and I usually go there a few times a year. So, I mean, we tasted some good Pinot. 2017 Rebel Pinot was great. I'm taking a look at my notes here. The 2022 Tenacity Pinot Noir was very young.
Outstanding Pinot, though.
But, yeah,
it had also won double gold at the All-Canadian Wine Championships.
Right, of which you were a judge.
I was there. I found this wine amazing, and I tried to prove a point to you about they had it decanted, and then I asked for it undecanted. And some of you liked it decanted.
I preferred it decanted.
I don't know why. Undecanted, I got spicy, I got texture, I got cranberry, I got baking spice, I got blackberry, black currants. It was complex. It was so, you could see the ageability on it. And that's the way I continue to like my wine, is straight out of the bottle, so I can watch a wine age over the course of an evening. Granted, we weren't going to be there for the whole evening, but I want to know what it's going to be like when I open that bottle. And I was just enthralled by that Pinot. I thought it was really, really good.
See, I also love that, like, because I do. I guess that's the sort of thing is like you and I take the piss out of each other so much that like it sort of gets to the point where it's just like, no, I actually did take what you said seriously. I was just acting like a doofus. So when you brought me those 2 glasses, I did actually take what you said seriously. So I had the freshly opened and the decanted one in the left and right hand, and I was just like, I liked the decanted one better. But you know what the best option was? When I mixed them together, because I got tired of holding 2 glasses, and I got something that was sort of halfway.
Yeah, you got the halfway thing. I think that's a wine that you should open at the beginning of an evening and just watch it just open up nice and slowly, and it'd be great. I give it 4.5 stars. I was all over that one.
All right, so last week was the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal.
Okay.
I've been kicking myself the entire F1 season because I especially think over the past year, I think my love of cars has been more transparent on this podcast than any time ever before. But I've sat down and thanks to the Netflix show Drive to Survive, and don't worry, this is tied back to this podcast.
Are you going to see F1 the movie in theaters? Or are you going to try?
I am, but it's been kind of funny because they've been interviewing the Formula One drivers about the movie, and a lot of them have some like strong feelings about how unrealistic it is. But like, oh my God, Hollywood didn't get something completely accurate. I'm looking forward to it. But the thing is, the best thing about Formula One is following the drama both on and off the racetrack. So the last Grand Prix before Montreal, there was some drama with George Russell and Max Verstappen. I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, the reason we're talking about Formula One and the Canadian Grand Prix is I got an email in my inbox from one of my favorite publicists, The Alchemist. And, if you're a publicist listening to this, I love working with publicists because I do a little bit of PR outside of wine and food in my day job. But you know what? If you've got a great story, I'll have a way to bring it to life because I know it's really hard to get journalists who aren't being paid to talk about your story. So we aren't being paid for this, but the Alchemists were kind enough to send us a really nice bottle of Glenfiddich whiskey, a 14-year-old bourbon barrel reserve. I put it on ice for you because we know that you're whiskey hesitant. Now, the thing that ties all this together is Glenfiddich is now a car sponsor for the Aston Martin team, which is kind of cool because the Aston Martin team is Canadian owned. It's owned by Canadian businessman and billionaire Lawrence Stroll. His son Lance Stroll is a driver on the team. Listen, Lawrence or Lance, if you're listening to this, Lance is not the best driver on the grid, but also the car hasn't been very good. Their second driver, Fernando Alonso, is my wife's not-so-secret crush. She's been following his career for his entire journey.
20 years.
20 years. Been following Fernando Alonso for 20 years, who had a fantastic race before the Montreal Grand Prix. But, I was talking to the Alchemist about, like, how can we tie this together? How can we at least, like, get a mention? Because, like, I really want to cover the story.
So is this Alonso guy or Fernando?
Fernando Alonso.
Is that the Hall Pass? Is that what that is? Is that the... Oh,
yeah,
no.
No, okay, I'm just saying no. You can see you got a different Hall Pass. Okay. It's okay. But anyway, I just thought we would give a chance to taste this. It was just like, you know what, like Glenfiddich is sponsoring the Canadian team in Formula One. It's a team that definitely needs help this year. McLaren's kind of walking away with it, which is the team I'm cheering for. But yeah, let's get into this. Bourbon barrel, 14 years.
So, I like Irish whiskey. I am not a big fan of Scotch. I gotta, we've done this.
Ooh.
We've done this before. Because I don't like that peatiness to it. So here we go.
Well, there's no peat to this. Glenfiddich is...
so here we go.
Glenfiddich is not peated at all. The flavors you're going to be getting is completely from the American oak barrels.
I don't mind that one at all.
Yeah, it's pretty bold on the front. I did put it on some ice for you. Like, we're sitting in the backyard right now, and it's pretty nice outside. And I'm really waiting for my, like, hot summer to kick in.
So I don't think we're going to get one. So now I'm gonna do something really strange, Andre. I know you're going to kill me for this. I want to try it straight.
Want to try it straight? Okay, let's do that.
So here we go.
So the one question, and this is where I was trying to find the right way to position the stories. I was really curious. So the cost of a Formula One car is about $16 million ish, and I didn't get an answer because I didn't ask. It just didn't pertain to this podcast. I was I'm wondering what it costs to sponsor the team to get your logo put on a Formula One car, and I'm wondering what it would cost to get the Two Guys Talking Wine logo put on a Formula One car.
Yeah, that'd be more than we're getting out of Patreon.
Well, we need some more Patreon supporters, obviously. So if you want to see the Two Guys Talking, I don't know, maybe we'll sponsor the back of back of
the helmet or the wheel when it's first there.
Oh, the back of the wheel, the back of the steering wheel, anyways, is a pretty high value spot.
Oh no, I'm talking the back of the actual wheel.
Gotcha.
Just you can see us at the starting line, and then they start moving around, and then we're gone. That would.
Or you know what? Maybe we could do it that
like a little decal.
We got a thumbs up on one side of the car and a thumbs down on the other.
Actually, I don't mind the nose on this. Usually, the Scotch makes me backpedal right away with its nose because I get that. Everything smells mossy and moldy.
No, this is. I'm not sure the exact location, but it's not peated, so this might be a Highland. I'm trying to look on the bottle where it says where it's from. The thing is, the bourbon barrel notes are really kind of taken over. It's got that very sweet kind of vanilla and spice to it. Yeah,
I'm kind of digging this one, Andre. I know you were waiting for my face to probably get a picture of it, but I mean, that's pretty in tune with some of the nice Irish ones that I get.
Well, there we go. You know what? I guess this is as good a place as any. So cheers to the Canadian Grand Prix and to Aston Martin and to Glenfiddich for putting together another great whiskey.
And thank you for to 16 Mile and Five Rose for making such great wine for us to talk about.
And Veuve Clicquot for sending us a bottle of their champagne. You might want to rethink your pricing, but all in all, not a terrible bottle.
No, I would drink it, but I don't know if I'd have too much of it.
I'm Andre Peru of AndreWineReview.ca.
And I'm Michael Pincus of MichaelPincusWineReview.com.
Patreon.com/2guystalkingwine. Please take some time to look at that, support us, help us keep this thing going.
Find some change in your back pocket or look through the seat cushions in your couch. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Adam Duran and Ken Little.